Okay, I think we're ready to begin here. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining this morning's Completing the Recurring Billing Cycle with Encore and Nodus webinar. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind attendees that you are all in listen-only mode this morning. So if you have any questions as we go through this morning's presentation, please enter them in the GoToWebinar question pane, and we'll be sure to address all questions after the product overview. PowerPoint moving here. My name is Sherry Betancourt. I am the account executive of the Encore Products Division at Encore Business Solutions. And joining me this morning, we have Fawaz Hussein on the call, and he is the Director of Sales and Marketing at Nodus Technologies. We will begin firstly by providing you with an overview of Encore's subscription billing solution. Subscription billing will automate the creation of sales transactions for your subscription-based billing, saving you time. Then we'll pass the demo over to Fawaz, who will review the payment processing in GP with their PayFabric solution, as well as give you an overview of their online payment portal. Encore's subscription billing solution will automate the creation of quotes, orders, and invoices in Microsoft Dynamics GP sales order processing. This is a solution that has been available for clients using Dynamics GP since the late 1990s. So it's a very proven, mature, and stable product. And this is a product that Encore has invested in quite heavily from a development perspective in the last 5 years. As more and more clients are adopting a recurring revenue stream in addition to their more traditional revenue streams, and they're looking for a solution that will streamline their billing processes. Subscription billing will provide a way for you to create a contract for your customer and enter all of the line items that you will be billing on a recurring basis. So those items might exist on an item card. They could be inventory items, they might be service type items or miscellaneous charge type items, or they might be items that you're just entering on the fly on your customer's contract. So you can have multiple items. They all could be billed at different billing frequencies with different billing due dates. And if they are items that exist on an item card and they have a price list attached to them, when you enter those items on the customer's contract, the price will default in based on the customer's price level. But at the line, there is a contract price checkbox, which if you mark it, will open up the unit price field so that you can assign a negotiated price to that line item for that customer's contract. Subscription billing works with GP's EFT for receivables module. So if your customers are set up with ACH banking information on the subscription billing contract, you can define that contract to use the EFT for receivables. So when the transactions are created in the sales order processing module, either through the instant create process in subscription billing or through the batch creation process, that batch of EFT transactions will be created along with it with a payment applied to the invoice. Also works with the Avalara AvaTax solution, which is a very popular add-on for GP clients who need to assign that tax information to the sales transaction. So as the transactions are being created, we pick up the appropriate taxes and apply it to those sales transactions. Also works with the GP revenue and expense deferral modules. So if you are recognizing revenue over future periods, you can leverage the functionality that GP provides through that module. You can define your deferral on the contract line, or GP also has what they call deferral profiles, so we support both methods. The Wolters Kluwer CCH surtax, that is a solution that one of our customers was using, and they approached us to add support through subscription billing. So if a customer comes to Encore that's using one of our products and is looking for a tweak or a customization to meet their needs, we evaluate each one of those requests and determine if that's something that maybe our other customers can leverage as well. So if the answer to that question is yes, then we will enter into a cost share development initiative with the client. And so that's a win-win for the client who's made the request, because their cost will remain down because we will share in the development cost, and then we will add that to our core product. And so that means that when that customer upgrades in the future, that code has been maintained by Encore through their annual maintenance plan. So they're not having to pay for the upgrade of that code which otherwise would have been classified as a custom solution. So win for that client, win for future clients that may also be using something that we've added support for. And then of course the Nodus Pay Fabric solution that we are talking about today. So at this point, I'm going to pass the PowerPoint over to Fawaz, and he'll speak a little bit about the Pay Fabric solution that Nodus provides.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Good morning. Hello, everyone. My name is Fawaz. I'm with Nodus Technologies. I will be talking about the payment component of this process. Nodus Pay Fabric is our payment application, which allows you to process payments within Microsoft Dynamics GP, as well as we have customer-facing payment portal that we're going to talk about today. All of this is cloud-based payment processing, so it's very secure. It meets all the latest PCI compliance regulations. When it comes to payments, security is a very, very big concern. So that's why we make sure that our application address that, and I will be talking about that during our presentation today. Sherry, can you advance, please? Thank you. So there are two components that we're going to talk about. The first one is called Credit Card Advantage. This is our app. This is an add-on that sits inside of Microsoft Dynamics Great Plains, and it allows you to process payments within GP. Along with that, it has capabilities where you can save payment information on file, and you can run transactions in a batch mode. We will talk about how Encore's recurring billing solution is utilized to create contracts, to create invoices on a subscription basis. And then we will look into how Credit Card Advantage using Pay Fabric can be used inside of GP to process payments against those subscription invoices. When it comes to subscription billing, when it comes to billings in general, payment is a very important key. And when it comes to subscription, then payment becomes a little bit more important, is because when you as a business are allowing customers, or if you are in a subscription business, as Sherry mentioned, most businesses are going towards subscription billing. Then it is with that you also need to adopt a secure method of processing payments along with that. Subscription billing is more beneficial and more efficient if you have a payment information on file as well, which allows you to process payments along with those subscriptions. Now, when you keep a payment information on file, it opens up a whole new level of security that you need to be concerned about. And that's basically where Pay Fabric and Credit Card Advantage comes in. So Credit Card Advantage is an add-on to GP, but it utilizes Nodus's Pay Fabric Cloud to store and process all the payment information up in the cloud. So this way, even though you're inside of GP, where you're going to be managing all your subscription billing, and you will be managing all your payments, and you'll be processing all payments within GP. But at any given point, your GP will not be exposed to any of your customers' credit card data. All the credit card data is going to sit outside of outside of GP, outside of your network, up in a secure Pay Fabric cloud, and which will help you tremendously, not with security, but also by protecting yourself from any potential data breach. If we can proceed to the next slide, thank you. Now, there's a second component to this, is a payment portal. Payment portals are becoming more and more popular these days. Just the way you and I, we pay our utility bills online, just the way we pay our cell phone bills or cable bill. Likewise, our customers now also have an expectations from us that they should be able to take charge of their payments. They should be able to maintain their account. They should be able to view their past invoices, their historical data, as well as your customers. They should be able to manage payments on their own. That's why the payment portal becomes an integral part of this equation, because now not only in a subscription business, not only you're having a system which will allow you to create invoices in a subscription in an organized subscription manner, but also you have a system which allows you to process payments. But then you can also open up a customer-facing portal where the customers themselves can view their account information and update their payment information on their own, and perhaps even sign up for automatic payments, which will allow you to process payments automatically. So we're going to look into that as well. With that, I'm going to hand it over back to Sherry so we can show you how all of this works.
Perfect. Thank you, Fawaz. Okay, you should be able to see my GP, and I did some preliminary setup so that we can, highlight the most common features within subscription billing. I'm not going to show you everything that we provide, but I'm going to talk about some of those other features that you might find useful. So this is a subscription billing contract. Subscription billing integrates very tightly with the sales order processing module. So we leverage a lot of your GP setups through sales order processing and receivables management. There is only one setup window in subscription billing to set up the module, and within that window, there's only 2 required fields. So depending on the complexity of your subscription-based billing, your setup could be really quick and easy. So when you come into the subscription billing contract ending window, you're just going to, a new contract number will default in. That field is editable. Some customers are using their customer ID as the contract number and then appending it with a 001, and there's an option in the setup window. You can also override that. So if you have something more descriptive that you want to use for your contract number. So you're just simply going to select a customer. You're looking up your customer from your receivables management customer list. And once you've selected the customer, just like when you're in sales transaction entry, a lot of information defaults in from your GP setup and your customer card. So we have 3 tabs on the contract. The general tab is really your header information. I've defined a contract class for the demo here. Contract class is an optional field, but that's a way that you can group contracts together. So if you have different people within your organization that are responsible for billing different business units, then you could use contract class. So when you go through the process of creating your documents in sales order processing, you can restrict what you're looking at by the contract class, which will then disregard everything outside. Subscription billing is also fully multi-currency functional. Down in the bottom part of the window here, these are some of the new features that we've added in the recent years, but consolidation when creating SOP documents. So enable line consolidation for non-inventory items. This was a cost share project with one of our clients. So they wanted to be able to, on the contract line item tab, enter in details of all of the lines that they're billing their customer for, but when the invoice is created in sales order processing, they wanted to present a single line. So if you think of something like, let's say, a gold plan, when a gold plan is like 50 hours of support and I don't know, 20 hours of consulting services or implementation or whatever the case may be, they had all of the different lines on the contract. Each of those lines is using a different revenue account, but they've tagged the lines and grouped them together and defined which one is going to be presented on the customer's invoice. So the customer's invoice, they see gold plan, but when you go look in the GP distribution, there's a revenue line for each of the support, consulting, and implementation, or whatever the case may be. Consolidate multiple contracts. This is a way, for the most part, first of all, back up, for the most part, you should be able to handle all of the billing for a single client on a single subscription billing contract, because like I say, you can have multiple lines, they could all have different billing dates. Some lines could be deferring the revenue recognition, others not. But some organizations, still recognizing that some organizations like to have a separate contract. If they negotiate something new with a client, you can group contracts. So you can consolidate contracts together and then just create basically parent-child relationships. And then when you run through the billing creation, subscription billing will look all of the contracts that are grouped together and find the line items on each of those contracts and pull that into a single sales transaction. Now, the customer for the child contracts and the parent contract do not even need to be the same customer. So if you think of something like let's think about like a cell phone service provider where they're billing your organization for all of the employees in your organization that have cell phones. And so they're sending the the bill, the invoice to the parent for all of the cell phones within the organization. So in that case, they've got a contract set up for the parent, and they have contracts set up for each of the employees, and they've created the relationship between the parent and the child. And when the sales transaction is created, it's going to pull all of those child contract line items that are due to be billed into a single sales transaction. Document type, this here, we support all quotes, orders, and invoices within GP. So the lookup here, you don't need to define anything here. When you go to create your documents, you can define at that point what you want to create. So let's just say you're normally creating a batch of special invoices, and then this contract is going to pull into it. So if you don't have anything defined here, it's going to create a special invoice as well. But because I've defined a standard invoice, that batch, this particular contract is going to contain a standard invoice. I might even have in my billing run, have some customers, that don't even want an invoice off the hop. They want a quote. So on that contract, it could be a quote. So you might have different document types in a single batch. And that's really something you decide upon within your organization if you want, if you allow that. But whatever is on the contract is what will be created. If nothing is defined here, it will be pulled from the time of document creation, whatever you select. And there's also an option in the setup window. So there's 3 different places, and there's a hierarchy involved, but this one will always take precedence. If you are using the EFT for receivables module, you can select EFT active here. That's it for the header. And now on the line item tab, I've added 3 line items on here. So actually all 3 of these items I just entered on the fly. So if I enter something just on the fly by typing it in, this is the contract price checkbox that I talked about, that if something existed on an item card, that the item price would default in. But if I mark this contract price checkbox, the unit price would open up and I can override what's on the list. So I've got 3 items on this particular contract. I've got an annual line item just to show you all the different frequencies that we have available. I think we've got everything covered here. We even have a user-defined number of days and a user-defined number of months. We have one customer that's only sending invoices out once every 36 months. So they're using this user-defined number of months where then they enter in 36, and they're also using the GP revenue and expense deferral module, so they're recognizing the revenue over the future periods. Start date only comes into play if you are prorating your line items, which I am in this case. So in my example here, we're saying that the customer signed on for these service items 1, 2, and then they've got a one-time item today, but the regular billing cycle is going to be on the 1st of May. Now, if I expand here, we can see additional details. So I've marked the prorate, so we can see exactly here what period is going to be billed. If I toggle this off, we disregard that start date. So it's only going to bill for the period, for 1 month period, May the 1st to April the 30th. So if you want to capture that additional revenue, if a customer is starting mid-cycle, just simply mark that prorate, and we can see that it has updated appropriately. Oh, one of the features that we have in the setup window is the ability to append to the item description as well. So I think I have it turned on in this environment, but you can turn it on where it will append the item description with the billing cycle. So this would come over, if I have it turned on, service item number 1, and it would show April the 15th, 2020 to April the 30th, 2021. So the customer knows exactly what period they're being billed for. So I really like that feature. There's no question on what they're being invoiced for. Now, if you're using the revenue and expense deferral module, you just simply turn on the checkbox here if you want to recognize the revenue over future periods. We're taking the default calculation method from the deferral setup window in GP. You can change it. Equal per period is what I have by default, or it could be days in period. GP has a miscellaneous option, but we don't support that one. Now, service date is the date that the revenue recognition is going to start. So because I have prorating turned on, it defaulted to April the 15th. So that's the date that the revenue recognitions are going to start, and it's going to recognize it over the future periods. We've provided the ability to delay revenue recognition. So if I mark this checkbox, it removes the service date. And this is where we extend GP's functionality somewhat. If you remove the service date and you post that transaction is going to populate. We have a delayed revenue recognition window. So this is for customers that are billing in advance of providing services. And so you can't recognize the revenue until you provided those services. So this transaction line item will sit in our delayed revenue recognition window. When I've provided the services, I can come in there and kick off the revenue recognition entries. So I've got my annual line item. I've just got a mixture of items here. I've got a quarterly line item that I'm prorating and as well deferring the revenue recognition. And I have a one-time line item. Now, most customers that are billing on a subscription basis, I mean, every organization is a little bit different, but you can put an end date on here or you can leave it open. I think most organizations, when they're billing on a subscription basis, even though they've got an agreement for 1 or 2 or 3 years, at the end of that period, you still continue billing and you leave it, the onus is on the customer to come back to you and tell you to stop. So if that's the case in your organization, you can leave the end date blank. Some customers are putting an end date in so that they know when that agreement is going to be fulfilled. And we've created the smart list objects for subscription billing, so you can run a smart list, see who's due to expire, and then reach out to those customers maybe 90 days in advance and try to upsell them on additional services. So end date can be put on when you enter the line items, or it can be put in at another date. And then on the user-defined tab, I'm just going to expand this for a second. We do give you a lot of user-defined fields. So we give you line fields. There's a setup window where you can define the titles for these user-defined fields. These are for storing information. These fields are available in our smart list, so you can query your contracts based on those. And on the user-defined tab, these would be header user-defined fields. Again, available in our smart list, and then you have the SOP user-defined fields. And then I just created, I think, 2 more contracts here. So this is just a very simple one. This one's going to use the special invoice so that when I run through the document creation, it's going to create a different type of a document. And I think this just has a single line item on it. Yep. And this is one where it exists on an item card. So when I pulled it in, it's taken the unit price assigned to that line item. If I mark that, this field becomes enabled. I can change that if I've negotiated something different. And then I think I just have another one here just so that I have a few transactions. Okay, so there's different ways to create transactions in sales order processing. For the most part, you're going to be going through the batch creation process, but let's just say in this scenario, I had done my batch creation, and you can run your transactions, 30, 60, 90 days in advance, whatever whatever's required. I know at Encore, we generate our renewal invoices 90 days in advance. So let's just say I've done that now and I've missed this one. The contract didn't get set up, and so I just need to create one transaction off of this contract. So we have an instant create here. And so it's just going to quickly run through and it's going to create that transaction for me in sales order processing. So normally you'd be creating batches for everything that was due to be billed. So there it is. If I go back to my contract, oops. We can see that my next bill date was May the 1st. And so it last billed to build it for the May 1st. So it'll pick up, if I had different billing dates on here, it would only pick up the line item through the instant create. It's going to pick up the line item or items that are due to be billed next. And then it will disregard anything else. And I'm going to clear that. So we have in subscription billing a rollback feature. So if this transaction has been created and I discover that there has been an error, I can just simply void this transaction and it will put everything back to subscription billing. So I have it turned on to ask me. You can turn that off, or that it'll just roll it back. So if I roll that back, so that's very useful. I can either delete or void a single transaction once it's been created in sales order processing, or the entire batch. So if I create a batch of 100 or more transactions and I discover after the fact that I should have updated pricing or added line items to my contract, it's very easy to just roll it back, basically undo everything and update the contracts. So if I go into document history, we can see my transaction. So I've actually run through this process twice, getting ready for the demo. So this transaction was created through the instant create process. It was not transferred from a quote to any other document type, and it was ultimately voided. Okay, so that's the instant create. We also have a copy contract. So if you're creating a similar contract, you just basically start a new contract and then choose the contract that you want to copy the lines over from, and it'll quickly create the new contract for you. So that's a time-saving feature as well. Okay, so normally you would be going through the subscription billing create swap documents process. So we've got here, we can choose what document types we're creating, and I'm going to create a standard invoice, and I'm going to select my billing due date of May the 1st, 2020. I'm going to put the document date in for today. And my batch, I've already pre-created this batch. And what was my, I think it was SB notice, this one here. Okay, so I'm restricting the contract class. So I'm just looking at those 3 contracts that I had set up. So we can put any restrictions here, you know, if we're just particular customer or whatever the case may be. So fast create new. First time we click it, the transactions are not being created in sales order processing. So at this point, if we wanted to take a peek, we can have a look at an edit report. This is just a summary edit report here, where we see these 3 contracts are pulling in. This is the invoice subtotal, or we have a detailed edit list here. It will give you more information. It's going to tell me if my lines are being prorated. So if we looked at that and discovered an error, we could back out. But I think with the rollback, probably most customers don't even look at that. They just go through in the fast create. And if they discover something after the fact, you can roll it back. So there's my 3 documents that have been created. I just get a report to tell me what's been created. The transactions button will take me to the first item in that batch. So this one, if you recall, we had set up deferrals. So if I go to my distributions, I had 2 lines, an annual line and a quarterly line. And if I put focus on that line and go up to deferral, we can see the entries that are going to be created for each of them. So there is for my annual line, and this one was being generated monthly, or quarterly, pardon me. Okay, now I'm just going to swing over. Fawaz is going to go into this in greater detail, but I'm just going to go over into the credit card advantage here. And first of all, just show you that I have a credit card set up for that first customer, that Aaron Fitz. In my wallet. So this is my default credit card assigned for this customer. Oops. And if I go into the batch verify and then auto batch, and I find that batch that I just created. And we'll create the batch transaction. Okay, so we see that that one was successfully processed. So now let's go back to that transaction. Do I have my sales transaction entry window open? No, I don't. Okay, I'm going to remove the batch from this one. So we see there's the payment that's been processed through the Nodus solution, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to post this one. And I'll bring up the general posting journal. This is the revenue recognition entries that are going to be created. Okay, and just quickly go back to that contract. Okay, so if we go up into the document history, we see that invoice has been posted. This is something that we've recently added. A green flag means that it's been fully paid. If you've received partial payments, it's going to show the amount that's remaining. You can drill back and you can see any cash receipts received against that transaction. Now, you can create a return off of this document as well. So relatively new feature as well. So if you process the return, it's going to pull in the line items that existed on that original transaction, where you can mark the ones that you want to process the return on. And just like we saw with the instant create, it just kind of runs through and opens up that return document for you in sales order processing. I'm not going to go into that because I want to make sure I have enough time here for us to go through the credit card piece. Okay, so I'd mentioned if you were delaying the revenue recognition and posted those transactions that it would populate another window. Here's one that I set up prior to the demo. So this is a line item where I had invoiced for 50 hours of support at $150. So I've already provided some support. So if I've provided more support for this customer, I would just come in here and I will create a batch that's going to create a batch in my financials for my deferrals. And let's just say now we are at June the 12th. Oops. Okay, so this is going to start the deferral because this was billed, I think, on an annual basis. It's going to recognize it over 12 periods, but I can change this. I can change any of this. So if it's June the 12th and I've provided a couple of hours of support at this point, I can put in the start of the deferral on June the 12th. Maybe I want to just do it, maybe I want to recognize it all on that day. Yeah, let's just put in 2 hours. And so it's going to create that deferral document for me. And there it is. So it's recognizing that revenue for me on that day. There are a series of canned reports that come with subscription billing, so you can run a contract listing, a very comprehensive contract listing. It's going to tell you if you have your, deferral turned on, if you're prorating, it'll give you all the distribution accounts. You can also print out a contract agreement that you can send to your customer to sign off. There's a report that will tell you the revenue that will be generated out of subscription billing based on a date range, so I can look and see what's going to be generated out of subscription billing for the next year, and also a report that will tell you what has been invoiced already based on a date range. And then lastly, as I've mentioned, we have all of the smart list objects for subscription billing. So, if you haven't got it in the report, you can probably get it through the smart lists. I'm just going to bring up the contract lines. So that concludes the overview of subscription billing. It was kind of quick and high level, but I mean, if you have any additional questions after today's webinar, you can certainly follow up. On the last slide, I'll have the contact information. So at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Fawaz, who's going to go through the Nodus solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Just to double check, you should be able to see my screen. Okay, looks like you can. Thank you. Thanks for that overview. So as Sherry mentioned, this is just a high level to show you all the capabilities of the system. By any means, I'm not going to go into too much details, just to highlight some of the useful features and some of the cool features that I would say of the solution. So we talked about recurring billing, and then we talked about how the billing, you looked into how Encore's recurring billing solution can be used to create billing on a recurring basis. And then Sherry showed you how you can process payments along those for the batch of invoices that was created. Now, if you notice that the batch that Sherry used, it's a demo batch, so there was only one invoice in there. But as batch goes, you can have as many invoices in there, so you can have a bulk of invoices that you can process payments together, as well as you have options to process payments on one-off basis as well. But let's talk about, so when it comes to payments, I'm going to start off with addressing some of the security concerns that I brought up in the beginning. So security is a big concern when it comes to taking payments from the customers. Sherry showed you a window called wallet maintenance, which essentially is a window where you can see what credit card information is on file for this customer. Now, what I want to point out over here is, again, notice Credit Card Advantage, we use our PayFabric cloud in the backend to store all that data. So none of the credit card data is inside of GP. So the window that you saw in front of you, the one that you're looking at right now too, if you notice, there's a white spot over here. This is basically this is a frame, what in a technical terms is called an iframe, an internet frame, where the PayFabric window is going to open up. So when you saw Sherry pull up a customer account and to see what credit card number they have on file, all of this data was not this is not coming from GP. All of this is coming from, I'll use this as an example right here. All of this is coming directly from the PayFabric cloud. So that's why we have a little stamp over here that says PayFabric. This is important because this is showing you that these credit card data, these credit card numbers that you're using, that you're storing, are not in your GP. They're not on your in your computers or on your servers. Furthermore, you can even, let's say if you were on the phone with a customer, if you want to take a brand new credit card number, when you type this credit card number right here, it goes straight to the cloud, the PayFabric cloud. It completely bypasses your GP. One interesting feature that I want to highlight here very quickly is that there's a button that's here called Send Wallet Link. So let's say if you are in an environment where you're hypersensitive for security and you don't want to expose your employees or any of your team members to any of your customers' credit card data, you can essentially enforce a policy in your organization where you can say that, hey, we don't take any credit card number over the phone. All we do is we just ask them to read their email address, and if the email address is on file, it will be pre-populated. Like let me pick up a customer that I personally use for my test account. Right here, let's say if I don't have any credit card on file, if I click on Send Payment Link, it will actually show me what email address I have on file. Or you can even put their cell phone number to send them a text message on their cell phone. So right from GP, you can send them an email or a text message with a hyperlink that they can click on. The customer themselves can click on, enter their credit card number themselves, and it will be stored on your PayFabric cloud for you. So in other words, I can just ask you for your cell phone number or your email address, send you a hyperlink. You as a customer enter your credit card number yourself, and it will be stored here. So this way I don't have to ask you for you to read your credit card number over the phone. So that's one important security feature that I wanted to mention. And obviously customer will have a portal as well, which I'm going to show you. Secondly, you can process payments yourself as well. You can process payments from any of the receivable modules of GP, whether it's a sales transaction entry window, invoice entry, transaction entry, or even cash receipt. So just as an example, I'm going to process a very quick cash receipt. And what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to select a customer as an example, credit card as a method of payment, and enter the dollar amount. When I enter the dollar amount and I tab off, it will automatically open up this window called e-transaction entry window. This is basically where, let me move it over here. This is basically where the credit card advantage kicks in. This is the notice payment window where you can process the credit card in a real time, one-off credit cards. Sherry showed you how to do that in a batch mode, but this is just to show you an example of a one-off credit card. I can see what credit card numbers this guy already has in wallet. Apparently he has 2 Visa credit cards. I can use either one of them, or I can type in a new one if I want to, and then hit process. And what the system does, it will automatically process the payment, and it will send the confirmation to the customer. By the way, anytime a credit card is processed, even from the batch processing that Sherry showed you earlier, in the back end, we automate the email receipt, email delivery receipt. So automatically the customer will receive payment confirmations. So you don't have to send them, like print out something or send it yourself. The system will automatically do that in the back end. And that's it. The payment is processed in real time. If this was declined, it would have been declined. So now let's step outside of GP and show you the customer facing. You can set up a portal for PayFabric. Comes with a portal. You can set it up where you can essentially allow your customers to go in, view their accounts, and make payments on their own. Very, very similar concept to how you pay your cell phone bill or how you pay your utility bills. Likewise, you can allow customers to view their accounts and make payments on their own. Now, keep in mind that we're addressing all business type. Maybe in your business, you might want to take payments immediately at the time of billing. And maybe in some businesses, your business, you will allow people to, like terms, well, you have subscription billing, but you allow them like 2 weeks or 30 days or something like that to make payments, right? So depending on what your business is, with these both solutions combined, you can address any business need or any business process. So going back to the portal over here, you can put your own logo here. So this is your branded, but as a customer, I'm your customer now. When I log in as an end customer, I can actually log in and I can see what what my account is and what my account looks like. So I'm logging in right now. It's taking me to my account page. So this is my account summary page. I can see my total outstanding balance right here is 6,912. These are all my outstanding invoices. Again, this is my test environment, so I have a lot of outstanding invoices here. Your customers may not have this many outstanding invoices at one point. I can drill down on any of this invoice to see the detail of this invoice. So this is all the data is coming directly from GP. So when you create invoices, even if the invoices were created using the Encore recurring billing solution, this is where you can display those invoices so customer can see the details of that invoice, and then they can make payments. You can allow them to make payments in full, or you can even allow them to make partial payments. It's up to you. If you don't want to allow, you don't have to allow make partial payments. And remember the window that Sherry showed you, the document history window, that was a window that was a little green flag, which Encore has recently added, which essentially shows you if the invoice is paid or not. So think about that, right? So that same window also shows that if the invoice is partially paid, then you can see the amount. So it's the same thing customer can see over here too. So as a customer, I can come and see, I can see that, hey, this invoice right here, I had $5,350 invoice and $4,163 is still the balance. So I can see that, oh, this invoice has all these payments, these 4 payments that were made on it, but there's still a balance on it. So, you can allow them to view all of this data. Likewise, they can also see the historical data. So all the payments that were processed, all the invoices, past invoices, all of that data can be displayed over here. And you can go as far back in history as you want. You can allow people to even manage their wallet. So I showed you how you can send a link to the customer so they can just enter their wallet and credit card information. But besides that, as a customer, I can view and I can see that, hey, with your organization, I have 2 credit card and 2 ACH accounts. By the way, I don't think we mentioned this earlier, but I just want to remind that anytime I use the word credit card, you can replace it with eCheck as well. So our applications are designed to process eCheck payments, like ACH payments, as well as credit cards. So if you don't take credit cards, if you only take checks or like direct bank transfers or whatever, you can essentially use that as well. So you can put your account number and routing number, and it will do like an electronic check for you. So I can see that I have these four payment information on file. You can also allow them to make prepayments, like deposits and things like that. And then another fun, very useful feature over here is autopay. You can allow customers to sign up for automatic recurring payments. Similar concept, just like your cell phone bill. You can keep a credit card on file, and whatever your bill is, your credit card is paid automatically. There are a lot of parameters that you can set up in the back end in terms of what type of automatic payments. So let's say, I'm just going to make an example. Subscription billing creates billing every first of the month, and then every second of the month you can allow people to sign up for automatic payments, so they can just process payments from here as well. So you can even set those up too. So this way, whatever the parameter is, according to those parameters, the system will automatically process payments without you doing anything. So it will schedule those payments. So for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just pay this invoice, and I will pay one more. I'm going to pay this invoice as well. So I'm paying these two invoices in full. Total that I'm paying is $428. When I hit continue to pay, it takes me to my review and payment page, where I can see one more time what am I paying, what my total is. I can see my payment options. I can change my payment option. I can use my other credit card, or I can add a new credit card if I want. And then I can make a payment. If I make a payment, it will process this payment, and it will tell me in real time if this payment went through or not. So as a customer, if the credit card is declined, then I would be notified immediately, and I would be able to, I will see a message that, hey, payment didn't go through, and I'll be prompted to enter a new credit card number. In this case, the payment went through, so I see this confirmation. Again, this copy of this confirmation has already been emailed to the customer. They can always come back to their history and see it. But the most important thing that happened right now is this has automatically been updated in GP. So this payment that I just made for $428 split into those invoices, this payment number, PFR000117, I'm going to copy this number just for demonstration purpose. This is the cash receipt that's been generated in GP already. So just to show you how the integration works and how fast it is, if I go to the cash receipt window, and if I paste that number here, see, it came in right away, $428. And if I click on the apply button, I will see that the right invoices were paid for the right amount. So everything is mapped out as you're processing the payment. As the customer is processing payments will automatically integrate back into GP and will be applied in a cash receipt for you. So this way, you just have to basically review it. It's all sitting in a batch, so you can just review it and post it however you want to. So in a high level, the difference is that what we're trying to cover here is all different type of business scenarios. You can, if you want to take payments upfront at the time of billing, you can do that. If you want to allow terms, you can do that. Some accounting departments have a policy where they take payments before the invoice is posted. You can do that in GP, like Sherry showed you. If you take payments after the invoice has been posted, you can do that using an auto pay. So there's tons of functionality that can essentially fit any type of business, any type of requirement. Again, another part of this is that this portal that I'm showing you has a customer service site as well, which essentially allows your internal team members to go on and make payments on their own. So your internal team members, so let's say your customer service staff or your sales reps, they all can have access to GP, but if you want to process payments outside of that, like from the portal, you can easily do that. A fact that these days specifically, we did a quick survey and we spoke with some customers. This functionality is becoming very, very useful because a lot of people who are working remotely, it's easier to access a web-based portal than VPN and dialing up into your GP. So things like that. So a lot of benefits that comes with the system. So with this, just it was a quick overview of payment processing. I'm going to hand it over back to Sherry, and just again, if you have any questions, if you want to learn more about any of this solution, how it works in your environment, in your settings, we'll be more than happy to help you out over there. Sherry, all yours.
Okay, that was great, Fawaz. Thank you. So I hope that both Fawaz and I have shown you through our subscription billing and pay fabric solutions that together we can increase employee productivity by eliminating some repetitive tasks, and we'll give you the ability to respond faster to your customers' inquiries, needs, and wants. And as well, both of these solutions are going to grow with your business. So at this point, was I muted? I don't think so.
Just there's a little bit of a pause there, but we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so we'll move into the Q&A. We have Melissa, who is our marketing specialist at Encore, on the call as well. So she'll read off if there was any questions, and Fawaz and I can address those at this time.
Sure. Yeah, there have been some questions coming in. So I'll just start here. What payment processors do you support, and do I have an obligation to switch my processor?
Thanks, Melissa. This is Fawaz, and I can take that. So we support all the major payment processors in United States and Canada. Moneris is very big in Canada. We can support that. Payment Tech, PayPal, Authorize.net, CyberSource. We support all the major ones. You don't have any obligation. But just to also let the viewers know that Nodus, we are ourselves a processor. We are part of a company called Evo Payments. And essentially, if we bundle software and processing together, there are tons of benefits. And I'm not talking about monetary benefits. Of course, by taking a middle person and a third party out, you are bound to get a lot better rates if you go with our processing. But besides that, from the technical side, there's a lot of benefits of having both software and processing under one roof. So to answer your question, you don't have an obligation. You can continue to use who you're using as long as it's one of the processors that we support. But we do work with all the major ones out there.
Okay, thanks. We have another question here. Do you offer free trials of subscription billing?
Yes, we do. We can certainly provide anybody that's interested in the solution with 30-day trial keys. I would highly recommend a couple of hours of consulting services to get you going so that you can complete a meaningful trial of the solution, but yes.
Okay, thanks. Another question, if the payment gets declined, will the customer be notified?
Yes. So when I showed you that how the payments are processed, and so in real time, as soon as the payment is processed, customer receives a confirmation for the approval, but at the same as well as for decline as well. So whenever the credit card is declined or any payment that is declined, the customer will be notified. And those notifications are templates, so you can write an instruction on them how they can go on and update their credit card data by themselves.
Okay, thanks. I've got another question here. What is a typical subscription billing implementation and end user training engagement?
It's pretty quick generally. If a customer has already been using GP and they're comfortable navigating around GP, if their sales order processing module is fully set up and receivables management, you're probably looking at a day maybe, which would include your end user training. If a customer is new to GP, it might take a little bit longer, but I've never seen an engagement go beyond 3 days. So generally looking somewhere between the 1 and 2 days for most customers.
Okay, thanks. Do you guys have time for a couple more questions?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, can internal employees process payments from the portal?
Yes. So towards the end, as I mentioned, that the portal does have a customer service site as well, which essentially allows your internal employees so go in, view customers' accounts on behalf of customers, and make payments on behalf of customers.
Great. Okay, last question. Is there an easy way to add lines to multiple contracts without having to go into each one?
There is. We didn't go through it in today's demo, but there is an optional add-on importer, and that importer can be used to create your contracts initially, or it can be used to update contracts or add new lines to contracts. So that's a great way if you have to mass update contracts. We have customers now that we have the smart list objects that are just basically dumping the lines out into an Excel file and making changes and adding lines and importing it back in. So once you have those templates set up within subscription billing, which they aren't hard to set up, they're available for you to reuse, on a recurring monthly basis, whatever the case may be, and you can very easily update existing contracts. Huge time saver.
Great, thanks. And that's the end of the questions.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I have our contact information up on the final slide here. So if there's any questions, please let us know. We'd be happy to answer them for you. Or if you're looking for a more personalized product demo, we can certainly provide that as well.
Great. Thanks very much, Sherry and Fawaz.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.